I apologize for the lighting. House Democrat Al Green announced today that he will be forcing a vote on the impeachment of President Trump prior to Christmas Day. He was the first representative back on May 17th of this year to announce his support for impeachment of the current American president. And I'm a person who has stated repeatedly in the past that I do not favor any of Trump's policies. I've stated prior that I've been opposed to his candidacy as well as Clinton's candidacy. How are you, the reluctant dragon? I don't know if I should say the reluctant dragon, or just one time. But that being said, many of the individuals that would take hold of that office if he were outed, which in that case would be Pence first. I've even heard some people say impeach Pence alongside him or right after. Um, they're not really that good of being substitutes. This direct. Okay, I don't know what this person's talking about. So when going and reading his statement in terms of supporting this amendment or this vote, I went and read up a little bit about Al Green, and he represents Texas Ninth Congressional District, and I noticed that I can't really find anything about him, helping any schools or doing much of anything for the district. Really, the only claim to fame he's had is just saying he wants Trump impeached before anybody else did. And there's actually a small subsection of people who, if you go online and go to many of the videos that have been uploaded of his brave remarks, they're patting him on the back, congratulating him. Yeah, that petition is going nowhere, Reluctant Dragon. That thing will stay online for another 10 years. V is correct, he's trying to get fame, but to what purpose? I mean, with all due respect, he is 70 years old, and uh, I guess he could run for governor over there, but it's a red state. So typically when someone's trying to get recognition, a lot of times they'll be in their, especially if it's political, 40s, 50s, 60s. Um, Mainly because, man, for what that gonna do? It's useless. Reluctant Dragon. I don't know if you remember. There was a move. His name was Ramsey Clark. He was Attorney General under LBJ. He opposed. I think it was him and McGovern. They both opposed the younger Bush back in the early 2000s, and they had a website called impeachbushnow.org or something to that effect. And I think that thing is still there. It just sits there every year after year, giving us thoughts of what could have been. And from what I can recall, there was no direct, because the people who kept saying that kind of had more sense in that they wanted both Bush and Cheney impeached than the Speaker of the House, which, if I'm remembering correctly at that time, was Pelosi, would then become president. In this case, another Republican, Ryan, would become president if both Trump and Pence were simultaneously impeached, which kind of begs the question of why would you just want to get, because these policies are going to stay up no matter what. And that's kind of what was so uh, endearing to me about secular talk. Uh, I was very much convinced, oh, if only we had gotten this person, they would have done this differently. Every Republican in that field, except maybe Rubio, and that's only on immigration, would be doing everything Trump's doing now, except without Twitter and the little off the cuff remarks. You get Pence in there, he's going to do everything that Trump's doing now, except without the off the cuff remarks. So we begin this game of hoping and hoping that someone will get him out of there or people will switch over. Which, by the way, um, if the Democrats really wanted to change much of anything in the way of making impeachment seem more possible, they wouldn't be giving speeches about it. They would go over to the districts that are what one would consider purple or otherwise flippable and have some other Democrats win those seats and get enough votes in both chambers of Congress to where one could proceed with this. I mean, there's this level of just naivety I feel a lot of people have when it comes to the motives of politicians. Most of those Democrats are not bothered by Trump necessarily for his policies, but because they know that if he runs for re-election, they're going to get sideswiped again. And it's getting more and more irritating as you sit here and think it's a year later and we're still talking about the Russia results. We're going to have another year pass and we're still talking about the Russia results and if they interfered or meddled. The illegitimate presidency, when I think much of this past election cycle was similar to 2000, where yes, the Democrat won the popular vote, didn't win the electoral college, case closed. And people swear up and down to this day that that Gore won that. So what the point I'm making is, you see how Bush served out an entire tenure and people are still talking about, what if he had been impeached? What did he steal the election? Did they cheat? Did they cheat? Which there's, I guess you can make the argument. It doesn't really matter at this point. It's kind of like the people are still harping about the various assassinations. The person can't come back no matter what answer you give me. So it kind of matters little to me at this point. But I don't expect this vote to go anywhere. I don't expect any of the representatives who are proposing this to think in their heads this can go anywhere. If they really want to see Trump get impeached, if anyone wants to see him actually get impeached, forget a petition, forget speeches, go over and campaign in those districts where Republicans are barely winning or can actually be taken out, and acquire a majority in both chambers again. I am very dissatisfied with the loss of JFK. Yeah, well, Reluctant Dragon, you've had about 54 years to be dissatisfied with that. The point I'm making is, even if they go and find every single conspiracy detail and prove all of them right or wrong, it's not going to return anyone to what we were before. We're not going to go back to 1963 and just play out what would have happened if he hadn't have died. It's past. It sucks. You know, we've moved on, and we've tried to move on and accepted what's occurred. So I'm gonna go and probably do another stream within the next, if not today, definitely tomorrow. So I'll see. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good day.